So I just wanted to remind us of what we've been doing over this week. So we started on the first couple of days, really in a sense, setting up some building blocks, learning or relearning, revising some basic skills to do with bringing awareness to the body, through bringing awareness to body sensations and to the breath. And in a way, we're doing this two main reasons. One is because it's the body sensations are a good place to move out of the sort of proliferating thinking that can get us into trouble. But also the breath and body can be a tool with which to help us to stay with, to turn towards difficulties. So they're very useful skills that we can just keep on working on, building, refining. And then we looked at thoughts. And if you remember, I was saying how we have this strap line from MBCT of thoughts are not facts. But what we mean by that is that the thoughts, the thoughts like this don't refer to the thing itself. The milk's now in a different container today, but anyway, let's pretend that's milk. So the thoughts don't refer to the thing itself. And often, but this is a secondary thing, the content of the thought is not completely accurate. Sometimes it is, but often it isn't. It's distorted in some way or other, distorted by our mood state. And in a way, what we're learning to do with this is learning not to take our thoughts so seriously, so that we can use thoughts when they're useful, but just let them be when they're not very helpful. And then yesterday, we were looking at this thing of turning towards emotion. So we explored the idea of emotional avoidance and how that can be really unhelpful, and instead how we can start to learn to turn towards, to be with difficult emotions. So needless to say, we know we've sort of run through that over a matter of 4 days, and of course this is it's a whole life practice. It's not a week's fix, as it were, but hopefully nevertheless you found it useful. So today I'm going to add in one more idea that can help us, transform difficult mental states. And in a way, it's something that's been already implied, but I want to just make it more explicit. And this is the idea of actually cultivating positive states as an antidote to the negative states of anxiety and low mood and other such similar states. So, as I said, it's already implied insofar as I've been talking about how when we're turning towards experience, we want to turn towards it with an attitude of interest, of curiosity, a quality of acceptance, of patience, of receptivity. So these are all qualities that we can try and slowly cultivate, develop, which will help us with this whole work and act as a positive antidote in themselves. Now I want to take that a little bit further today and suggest that we can also try and cultivate kindness and compassion as elements of what we're trying to cultivate. Now again, of course, this is a very big subject. Dare I say, I've even written a whole book on it, Mindful Emotion. It's like a cheeky ad midway. But anyway, that aside, obviously is a big area. But I thought we could just try today just one area within that, which I think can be quite a helpful way for working with low mood and anxiety. And this approach is to consider what we have in common with other human beings, sort of what I refer to as common humanity. So there's, even within this, there's different ways of approaching this. I'll just mention two. So one thing that we can do is reflect that whatever experience we're having that's difficult, whatever difficult experience that we're having that we're suffering from, others will have had something like this before. Others will be experiencing this kind of thing currently, and other people will experience this in the future. It's part of being human, is that sometimes we get into these difficult states. I mean, pretty much everybody, I think, at some times experiences some anxiety, experiences some low mood, and not an inconsiderable number of people really struggle with these issues. So why it's good to remember that is kind of just to remember that we're not on our own. Because the thing about these mental states is they get very constricting, and we get very sort of turned in on ourselves. And it's really helpful to just remember, even though it's really difficult, even though we're really struggling, we're not the only person that's struggling. So that's one way of reflecting that can be useful. Another way is to reflect that we share a desire in common with other beings, which is that we want to be happy and we don't want to suffer. We don't want to suffer. And that's pretty much a universal thing. Everybody wants to be happy, nobody wants to suffer. Now, of course, how we go about that, unfortunately, can, in many cases, actually make suffering worse. We want to be happy, but we do things that cause ourselves suffering. And we may well see that. It's often easier to see in other people, actually, how they're doing things that cause themselves and indeed others around them suffering. But what we can try and do is get underneath the particular actions to the kind of heartfelt desire, which is to be happy and to avoid suffering. And if we can do that, that can be another way of expanding out from our own difficulties, our own suffering, to cultivating a sense of kindness and compassion towards others, but also towards ourselves. It's really important. We're not going off doing, rushing around busily, helping other people, as it were, and neglecting ourselves. It's more sharing this sort of sense of common humanity, this desire to be happy, this understanding that we often muck up and end up suffering, and having a response of, oh, what a shame, what a pity, and trying to have a sense of sympathy, of kindness, of compassion in that situation, both for ourselves and for other people. So that's what we're going to have a go at today. So the way we're going to do it is we'll do this in 3 stages. So after I've just led us through the body a bit, as usual, to just settle in, we'll have a go at see if we can find a sense of kindness and compassion towards ourselves. And the way I'm going to suggest that is we just remember that even if we're struggling, we're not the only person that's struggling, that we're not alone in this. And as I said, in a way, just connecting with that desire that we want to be happy, we don't want to suffer. And then in the second stage, we can bring to mind a friend. And particularly if we've maybe got a friend who's suffering, but it doesn't have to be that, but if we have got a friend who's suffering at the moment, we could bring them to mind and wish them well, wish that they don't suffer, connect with their desire to be happy and not to suffer. And then in the third stage, we can just bring anybody to mind. We just expand it out and include anybody that comes to our mind. And again, sort of trying to feel a sense of connection, of solidarity with other people on this basis of wanting to be happy and not wanting to suffer.